Welcome to What Have We Learnt? I'm Ben Punter. This episode is Geoff Marshal. He's a video editor, YouTuber, author, and rail enthusiast. You can follow him on Twitter at Geoff Tech. He's also at All the Stations on Instagram and on YouTube. He's Geoff Marshal, and also he's All the Stations. In this episode, we talk about Essex Road, the World Cup of tube lines, visiting all the stations, YouTube and its future, and also the book, The London Underground, 50 Things to See and Do, and Great British Railways, 50 Things to See and Do. There's a link in the description. This episode was recorded in Paddington back in late February, and it's a podcast of two halves. We switched recording locations about 20 minutes in because a certain shop kicked us out. In the meantime, this is What Have We Learnt with Geoff Marshal. Geoff Marshal, hello.
In the flesh.
Welcome.
How are you? It's great to see you. It's great to have you here on the show. Where have you been?
Oh, you've got any questions for me now? Okay,
yeah.
Awesome.
What did you have for breakfast this morning?
Crunchy nut cornflakes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a real answer? That's like the stock answer, isn't it?
No, not at all. Bowl of milk, a little bit of bowl of crunchy nut cornflakes, a little bit of milk, just till it appears at the top. But anyway,
right.
we're here to
talk. So we're here to talk about breakfast cereals for the next next hour.
It's the Breakfast Cereal Podcast. Welcome along. First, I want to talk very quickly. So in a recent video, you mentioned the tiles at Essex Road that they're changing.
I mentioned that last night.
Oh, really?
2 days ago, 3 days ago. I might have put a thing on Twitter actually.
I think it's in the video you and Vicky do. And you got some tiles.
That was last night.
Oh, that last night? I just saw that like yesterday as well.
You're bang up to date, my friend. That is.
I try to do my research.
Yeah,
but
they are on the Northern City line, just kind of like London's forgotten underground railway, because it's not part of the underground although it used to be. So if you're getting a train out of Moorgate through Old Street, Essex Road, Drayton Park up to Finsbury Park, big boy sized trains in underground tunnels, not a tube line. And Essex Road is very dingy, as is Old Street. Now Moorgate they gave a lick of paint to about a year ago to go with their new trains, but there's a lot of old Network South East branding down there, and there's some blue and red tiles at Essex Road, and they're basically just they're doing it, because we're recording this at the end of February, they're doing it this weekend, so it's finally going to get the lick of paint that it has so badly needed for a while. And all these gorgeous old red and blue tiles, which I say are a nod to Network South East, are going. Yeah. And Govia, who run it, I think they had some leftover tiles from their stockpile of new ones, and they gave me a couple as a memento. I'd have rathered some of the old tiles, but I got some of the new ones. I would if I was a contractor working down there, you'd chip off some old tiles and be like, yeah, I'm sure old things fall into pockets and bags, don't they, and get taken home. Yeah. We all know that happens.
Yeah. I mean, because that's my patch. Because that's where I grew up. I grew up.
Your turf.
My turf.
Your manor.
Yeah, around Essex Road.
You are like an Islington homie. Homeboy. Is that a thing?
It is now, I guess.
Yeah,
it is now. But yeah, so the whole lick of paint for Essex Road, it's like.
Have you? You know Essex Road?
Oh, I know. I grew up there, so I know what it's like. So
it's weird.
I think changing the tiles isn't going to work. You've still got the dingy tunnels, and they don't feel safe. They're not great at lighting. There's not much CCTV, but I think they have got that now. But like having been there, it's not a nice station.
But it's sort of just not branded that well. Does it even appear on the tube map? He says, getting a tube map out of his pocket, as if like he always carries around a tube map. In pre-TfL tube days, I know that it used to appear on the tube map. Yeah, it no longer appears on the tube map. So in the same way that Thameslink doesn't appear, because TfL Towers, and the head honchos there obviously don't want to advertise non-TfL services. But Thameslink through the core and I think the Northern City line are great candidates for appearing on the tube map. And if Govia put up big signs outside the station saying trains here, I think they could brand it a lot better and make it much more in the same way that when TfL took over the overground from Silverlink on the North London line, they just basically gave the whole thing a facelift. It would kind of attract more passengers. But yeah.
Well, if you live in Essex Road, you need to get to Moorgate, just jump on a 141 most of the time.
So if you live at Essex Road, you probably just walk up to Highbury and Islington and just get the Victoria line.
Exactly.
It's literally 5 minutes up the road.
Or 38, and it takes you all the way into town.
Yeah.
So also recently you did the Evening of Unnecessary Detail.
Did that as well, yeah.
And that was at the Backyard Comedy Club is it Backyard or Barnyard? No, Backyard.
So it's the lovely Helen Ali, Steve Mould and Matt Parker, who are Festival of the Spoken Nerd, Fotzen. The great thing about that, the word Fotzen, F-O-T-S-N, I think it's a really rude word in German. If you know any German, Fotzen means something a bit close to the mark. And they do a comedy night, in Bethnal Green, which is a blend of it's kind of nerd. It's comedy it's nerd comedy. So they get people either along to speak about something with great intensity and passion about something they really love, and comedy just naturally seeps its way in, or they get people like me who try and deliberately we find a topic and make it funny. So I often try and make trains funny.
Because you've done the World Cup of lines, and then having a crowd, and as you're watching it as a viewer, you're kind of cheering on other lines at the same time. Who is this crowd cheering for the Northern line? Who's this crowd cheering for the Bakerloo line?
Yeah.
I know there's a whole section about supporting the underdog and cheering the Emirates line.
Well, that's really interesting. So basically, what I did was talking about the World Cup of Tube Lives, where I get people to vote for their favourite line, and what you genuinely find. And this happens a lot with the Northern Line, which is a great candidate, but it happens with all other lines as well. People either, if you travel on, people see a particular line as being their line that they travel on because they have to do it every day, 5 days a week on their commute to get to their job. And but what it does is that it, rather like the referendum, it splits people very specifically into two camps. People are either like, I have to use that every day and I hate it and it's so awful, blah, 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 blah. But because I have to endure it, I will vote for it because that's my line. Yeah. Or people are like, I use it every day and I love it, so therefore it's my line. So it's a bit like, you can't make, the only person that can make jokes about my mum is me kind of thing. It's like no one takes the piss out of the lawn line except me. Because I have to put up with it, I will therefore defend it even though I hate it.
Yeah. It's like no one can mock Essex Road, only I can, because it's my...
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely... Well, I might mock it behind your back.
That's fine. No.
It's fine. No,
it's what we did. It's what we did when we were there as well. It's rubbish.
No, I like that it's dingy. There's charisma in the dinginess in Essex Road.
Yeah.
Do you think right now we're people are going, where is the station? And they're looking up Essex Road on a map, and you should all go to Essex Road for a day trip. Have a picnic at Essex Road. don't do that.
So obviously you did all the stations around all the stations around the UK.
Yes, go on. I'm waiting for the question. Yes, I did that. Tick. Move along. No, it's fine. Me and Vicky. Yes.
Did you enjoy it, or is it something you think when you look back on it, you kind of think that was quite a silly thing to do, or was that like an epic thing to do, or was that a memorable thing to do?
So for 16 weeks in 2017, basically my summer 2017 was to travel to all 2,500 stop at railway stations, not always get out at railway stations of Britain, myself and my partner Vicky. And there was many things I can say about that in terms of how it makes you feel afterwards and how reflective I am and what memories you have. One of the most insightful things I ever heard from anybody is that they say when you have a sort of an experience or an intense experience, it takes as long as the experience took afterwards for you to process it. So as simple as if you go on an amazing holiday, if you go on a cruise around the world that takes 6 weeks, it might take you 6 weeks when you get home to kind of process it. You can't process it straight away. So we were on the rails for 3 months. So it did take me about 3 months till the end of the year in December to kind of be like, and to sort of to form feelings about it. And what I very much think is fun now is that there's some bits of it which I very clearly remember. I have very specific memories at certain places and signs and people we met and conversations that we had. Some are just vague memories, and it's like, I remember going there, but we should go back and explore that more. Yeah. And then the most intriguing part is that some bits are just like black holes. They're just like,
seen not found.
I have no recollection. I guess I must have. And it came up the other day when somebody went, they went bloody blah so and so station, and I went, where's that? And they went, you must know, you've been there. And I went, I don't remember it. It's like and they came up with the name of a station. I was like, really? Is Is that an actual name of a station? And someone was like, do you not, you don't remember it? And I'm like, do you remember, what, do you expect me to remember all the names of all 2,500 stations? So you could genuinely write down a list of like 10 stations, 5 could be real and 5 could be, good made-up names, and you could quiz me, and I probably wouldn't get that right as to which ones were real and which ones weren't, because there are some odd named stations out there, and I don't remember them all, but I have stopped them all. Promise.
I'm not going to ask the terrible question because I haven't written it down. Of like,
what's a terrible question?
What's your favourite station?
Don't have one.
I know.
No, I do and I don't. Yeah, but in terms of what?
We've spoken before, so I know what your favourite station is in London.
Hang on, when did we speak before?
2016 on the radio, but it's down the phone.
I don't remember this.
It was
when did we do this?
It was a phone call for Radio Harrow.
Oh, that was you.
That was me. Yeah. Hello. It was Sudbury Town.
Do you know my friend Shrey Prevnick?
Yeah.
Okay, this is all coming back. Oh, okay, it's suddenly all the pieces are fitting. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, he works there as well. He's still there.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm making the connection.
How do you know Shrey?
I just. How do I know Shrey? We're brothers. That's a joke, obviously. I forget now, but I know him.
Okay.
I would say we're friendly. We met. We bumped into each other at a Stratford 10k run the other week, and he was like, Geoff, and I was like, I hadn't spoken to him for a couple of years, so we had a little chat. Yes, and then we spoke. Okay, right, and then. What did you ask me back then in 2016? What was it all about? Were we talking tube?
I think it was I think
we must be talking tube.
We must be talking tube. I think it must have been a couple of years after all the tube stations.
Yeah.
And that kind of record. Is that kind of the other question? So when I told people I was coming here to meet you, they said, "Would you ever redo it again?"
Yeah.
Or is that kind of like does that ever feel like that's your kind of breakthrough moment? Like, that's the thing I did, that's what I'm kind of known for, but I'm now doing other things. It's not like a greatest hits you'd ever relive.
Gosh. It was just something that I did many times, and we were sort of the winners, successful winners, twice out of those many occasions. And I guess at the time it was something I was really focusing on, and it was something that I was known for, but now it's just sort of something else. Did you just say greatest hits?
I did.
I really like the analogy. So I'm a pop band that's had 5 albums with a couple of singles off each. And are you saying that was like my big #1 hit single?
That was your breakthrough.
It was like
your breakthrough.
If I were the Pet Shop Boys, that would be my West End Girls.
West End Girls, yeah.
Yeah, that would be the one that everybody has to. But they've had obviously albums and hits and singles and concerts since, but would not now people be like, oh, that's the guy that went to all the stations? But it started by going to all the tube stations, so that they're kind of linked. So I don't know.
But then also you've got all the other stations, and then you've got also.
But also I just do rail videos on YouTube anyway. That's kind of my thing. So I've moved into doing that. There's definitely people who think that that's all I still care about, and I'll only ever want to do that and do that again. And I'm like, no, I definitely do other things. And there's some people get very obsessive about it, and I have an arch nemesis, and I think that they think that I desperately want to beat them, and I'm thinking, no, I don't. Is I might do it again, but if the time was right and the opportunity came up, I might just do it. But I don't obsess about it. That's not what I think about. There are other things I think about, and I'm just getting on and doing other things. So the time that people would do it again is that at the moment they're building 2 brand new stations on the Northern Line, the Northern Line extension, which is happening down at Battersea. So it should be mid 2021. We're hoping it might slide into 2022 if current railway construction projects are anything to go by. There'll be a tube station just west and south of Kennington called Nine Elms, and then another one called Battersea Power Station, which is hilarious because if you might say Kennington Station or Morden Station or Clapham Common Station, so that will become Battersea Power Station. So when that happens, when those 2 new Northern Line stations open, the tube network would then be at 272 stations as opposed to 270, and the record gets refreshed, as it were. And I can sort of almost guarantee that on the first Monday of service, when the Northern Line is open, there'll be a whole slew of people out on the network trying to get around it in the fastest time possible, for sure. Maybe including myself, maybe not.
Yeah.
Depends how I'm feeling at the time.
But then,
don't know.
But then new videos and new sort of video strands and interest have kind of almost surpassed that a little bit.
It's no definite. I'm aware that I just made noises like.
It's never say never, but it's not.
I'm not sitting here going, I'm definitely going to do it, and it will definitely be on this day. And I'm sure it'll be like, sure. It's just I'm much more laid back nowadays. I can imagine 10 years ago, I'd be like, yes, I'm definitely doing it. Yeah. And nowadays, I'm a bit more like, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
You know, the other things. I think as you just sort of get a little bit older and wiser, other things become more of a concern. You know, or it's not the be all and end all. And but I think that's a really interesting point, because I think people think that I live, breathe and eat and sleep railways and trains all the time, and I don't. I go home and I switch off, and
you run a lot as well.
And I do a bit of park run. That's always good. But I do have a life as well. And I visit my family, and I go to the theatre, or I read books. And I don't just do trains all the time. You got to think of it like a job. It's sort of a bit of it's an interesting, fun job that I do, but it doesn't mean that I'm thinking about it 100%.
It's like
about 80%. No, it's a joke. I don't know. Don't put a number on it. Don't ask for a percentage number. Again, it varies. One day I could be like, yes, this is brilliant, and the next day I could be like, no, not today.
Yeah,
it depends.
There's an avenue here of it's definitely you are someone who has taken your interest and hobby,
yes,
and has kind of made it something out there that people like to watch and enjoy.
Yeah, but you know what's weird? By accident.
Oh, okay, go on.
So, I would say that, I know I am not going to name names, but there's people that I know, or there's people that I watch, or people that I'm aware of, and I think they think, yes, well, I want to do this as my thing. I want to be on YouTube. I want to make videos, and that applies to adults and sort of kids, teenagers alike growing up, but especially teenagers, because in the teenage world I think there's a thing where, when I was a child growing up, what do you want to be? I want to be a pilot, I want to be a footballer, I want to be a spaceman. You ask a 12-year-old now, what do you want to be? I want to be on YouTube. What? That's a thing? That's a job? Apparently so. Yeah. So, but I did it, and so my point being is that I never set out. At no point have I ever gone, this is what I'm going to go and try and do. I just sort of accidentally found myself doing it, and found that there was an audience, and found that there was a way to do it in a sort of a fun, interesting way, and thought, yeah, this is fun. And then I've sort of kept on doing it. Yeah.
What is it about all these videos, even from stuff you do with Vicky and the stuff you do with Secrets of, or even trying to race lines? What is it about these videos that make us as people? It's an odd behavioural thing for us to do, to sit and actually actively watch these videos, and I mean that in the nicest way possible. I'm a subscriber. Everyone I told I was coming here, they said, "Oh, ask him this." They watched videos as well. It was like favourite station. I'm like, get out of here. You're not an question person.
So, many aspects. One of the aspects is that, and I can relate to this. People are fascinated they love it when you go to their station, and people go. So if I met this morning, I've just come from Reading, and I was shooting a video at Reading, and somebody will go, "Oh, you're at Reading? That's my station," and that's really exciting. And it's true, because I can remember like watching TV years ago, and if the BBC ever came to like your town and did a feature in your town, you'd be like, "Oh, they're in my town. Oh, look, that's my local high street, or I recognise that park," kind of thing. So people love seeing their bit of the world on screen, and that's what we like too, because it's fun to go to other people's bits of the world which you don't know, which we don't know, and say to people, "Hello, we're here in your bit of the world. What's happening here then?" And that so that works both ways, because that people are going to be very proud to tell you about their town or their station. And yet it's also funny when people go, "You're at my station." You're like, "Yep, I was." It's just a station. So that's kind of fun. So that, what's your question? That is definitely a thing.
It's the nice way of me asking, why do people watch your videos? But it's just like, it's in the nicest possible way. That's the question.
Yeah. So they like seeing it when they come to your bit of town, and then that extends, and then people like seeing other places. So people go, "Oh, I've never been there," but now I've seen it, that's great. There's a kind of a vicarious thing. And then also people go, oh, and now I've heard about this place, and now I've seen it, and then I've seen you go there. I now definitely want to go there. I watch other videos or I read blogs, or it's like reading an article about an interesting place, and you think, gosh, okay, that makes me want to go there. So I think, sort of like a travel aspect, people see an interesting place we go to, and they go, oh, right, now I also want to go there. I do, because they didn't know of it at all, or they'd heard of it a bit, and now they've seen it, they definitely want to go there. You watch something on TV, and you're like, all right, I'll go there because you've made it sound really exciting or interesting.
Yeah.
Let's go and do that.
But doesn't it also extend into the fact that something like the Underground is 150 years old? It's evolving all the time with design and station looks and maps. It's evolving all the time, and so you have this evolving history, but then also you have this current evolving brand still ongoing, which is something to kind of chase. But people kind of don't realise it's an infrastructure around them.
Yes,
that has this history and this kind of rich history of so much.
Well, where we're sat recording this, listeners, today right now is that we're in Paddington Station, and not just over there, just 20 metres away, is an entrance to Paddington Tube, the Bakerloo line, where they're doing some works this week, and it's part of TfL Rail and Crossrail, and they're putting in step free. And as we're sat in at this cafe watching people walk by, people are just literally walking by with suitcases and prams and holdalls and stuff, and they don't realise they're walking past a bit of history, because in years to come, that entrance that's over there that's being built upon will have been demolished and will change completely.
Oh, really?
And so it's changing the whole time. And people are walking right now past a little bit of history. And sometimes that's always been a beauty in what we do, is that your commute to work, you don't realise, but you're walking through a bit of history, because in 20, 30, 50 years' time, it would have changed. So in the same way that we look back now, we look at black and white photos of the 19th century, you have to remember that in the 22nd century, people will be looking at colour photos going, look what Paddington was like in the year 2020, that was fun. But to us now, it's just us now living here now. But put yourself in the shoes of people 100, 200 years in the future that will look back at what we were wearing now, and what trains we were travelling from, and what design was like, and what signage was like, and what phones we had in our hand. That's all part of it. So all the time that we're out there making videos, travelling, we're documenting what life was like on the railways at this time that we were travelling in them. So it's always a social and historical record that's sort of ongoing. But that goes for the whole of YouTube as well, doesn't it? There's so much just recorded now. Yeah. And I do worry that YouTube might not be around forever, but I want it to be, because there's so much video now. You can look up almost anything and find it.
So we've just moved location because the previous place, which I'm not going to mention, turned
the background ambience has changed.
It's changed. They turned the music up, and now they made it louder, which kind of kicked us out.
This is nice. Can we say where we are? I think I've already said we're at the bustling metropolis that is GWR's Paddington Station.
Waiting room.
One of London's finest.
Yeah, well, it looks like an original clock.
There is an old clock on the wall over there.
Very old clock on the wall.
Do you want to ask your question again?
I do. So the question was, where do you want to take the channel?
This is such a wide and diverse question. I have short-term plans and goals, but there's no long-term strategy. So I fear that I could wake up next week or tomorrow and YouTube could just collapse, because you are at Google's whim. Recently a new law came in, is it COPPA, COPPA, which is to do with child protection, and you have to sort of state whether your channel is child friendly. Before that there was some EU legislation coming in which was going to change it, and obviously Brexit has happened, so that's now maybe not applicable to Great Britain. You got competing services. You got Switch, which I know is a gamer's platform, but somebody else could come in, and the whole debate about where broadcast and media is going. There's obviously people saying that the BBC shouldn't be a license fee; it should be just pure subscription, like Sky. Is that over the next few years, how people consume their content will change, and so I think you can't say in 10 years I want to be doing this on YouTube. Because YouTube, as you know, it might not exist, or it will have changed and grown. So we're just sort of taking it short term as a thing to see where it goes. Keep making interesting content. Recently, Vicky and I, we did very deliberately. We did a much longer. We did like a documentary style, like a 27-minute thing at Corral Station, up in the West Highlands of Scotland. And it's a beautiful video to watch, but it's like something you'd see on TV, and we'd like to do more of that, but it takes a lot, and people were loving it, but it takes a lot more effort. So, are you in it to make short 2-minute films or 5-minute videos or 12-minute vlogs or half an hour documentaries? It would be nice to spend more time doing things on longer films, but it's more effort. It's so much more work.
I know, yeah. Did you lived in the States for a while as well?
I have lived in America.
What did you? How long were you there for?
Did you Google my old website, which no longer exists?
No. Do you know what? This is a question from David. He said, "What did you miss about the UK when you was over there?"
Because the obvious thing is, all your friends and family has changed, but then it's not going to certain shops, is it? It's like not being able to. There's no Boots on the high street.
How long were you there for?
8.5 years.
Oh wow! Where it was in one place, or did you move
around? I was in South Carolina. I mean, what I want to say is W.H. Smith. Like Smith or Woolworths. Pick and mix. You don't get pick and mix. It's the weirdest thing. Yeah. You go to an American cinema, and sure they have popcorn or they have bags of candy, but I swear it's only Britain that does pick and mix.
That can't be right.
Seriously, I never went to a movie theatre in America where there was pick and mix. And I was like, come on, everybody loves the little candy teeth or the ice cream cones, right?
That's bizarre.
It is bizarre. But you could buy bags of, Haribo or M&Ms, but not
pick and mix.
No pick and mix.
What does it?
Obviously, tea is a thing. They don't really do tea. They just have coffee. That's always a thing.
So what do you think the US do transport-wise better than the UK do?
They don't. Because they're in love with their cars too much. The thing is, it's a classic stereotype. But the reason why it's a classic stereotype is because it's true. And I've literally been with a friend, and I went, we need to go down there, and it's 100 metres away. And he's like, come on then. I was like, where are you going? He's like, I'm getting into my car. I'm like, what do you mean you're getting into your car? I was like, it's over, it's 100 metres. We could walk it. He's like, no, I'm just getting into my car. Yeah. And he literally wanted to drive 100 metres, across a parking lot to get to a shop on the other side. And I was like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Their railways aren't that great. They always run a little bit late. The services are very sparse. Freight definitely takes priority. Passengers are very much second. And one of the things we've discussed is doing all the stations USA. So we did some preliminary planning. And it would take at least 3, possibly 5 months to do. And also, you're in the business of there sort of being maybe 2 trains a week between two cities. Yeah. And if you miss one, you've got to wait 3 days for the next train. So it's not even like 1 train a day. It's in some places it's like 2 trains a week, and I think that's very stressful.
If you're taking, how long do you wait? The UK one, you took what,
16 weeks. I mean, we had like a week off in like the middle to chill. Yeah. But America. And this is a good thing to say, but this is a general thing about America. It's just too darn big. It's literally too big. It's a deeply fascinating country, but by Lord, it's too big. It's just too big. It's weird how it's. Oh, you've got me on. I love talking about America. It's 50 states, as we all know, as you should know. I mean, really, it could be 50 individual countries and not 50 different states, because they each have their own little culture and money and rules and stuff, and they each have a lot of different laws anyway to do with, like, when you can drink and when you can get married and things like if you can buy fireworks or not, which is always fascinating, right? And there's an interesting argument that says America could just be 50 different countries and not 50 different states, and treat it like that.
Do you miss it at all?
I miss Waffle House.
I'm sure we've got a Waffle House here somewhere.
No. But if you try to explain to a British person about what Waffle House is, unless you've been to America and you've experienced the joy.
Is it like an IHOP?
It is like an IHOP.
I'm sure we've got one of those here.
Is there an IHOP in Britain?
I think there's an IHOP. I'm sure there is. Well, they might have done like a pop-up IHOP. But
unless at 2 o'clock in the morning, if you're coming home, sober, driving, there's something amazing about going, pancakes? And finding a Waffle House that's open at 2 a.m. and getting coffee and pancakes, or gas station coffee. The quintessential thing about America is that you must, the proper way to see America is in a car, not on a train, sadly, because you do the classic iconic road trip, because it's so big, there's so many open spaces, and it's just amazing to drive away from the big towns and through the small towns of America using its road network. And because of that, petrol stations, but gas stations have so many more amenities than they do here in Britain. If you go to if you pull up at a BP or a Shell here, You might get a wild bean cafe, maybe a toilet, possibly a cash machine. But a gas station in America, it's this like social hub where there's definitely a toilet and there's always a cafe and it's open 24 hours. And there's once, I saw there was a full-blown cafe and a pharmacy and everything was just all in this gas station. So there's something beautiful about driving into a gas station and using its amenities, because it's nothing like what you get in Britain.
So, moving on to the books.
Yes.
So you've got the two books, 50 Things to See and Do on UK Railways and 50 Things to See and Do on London Underground.
You've done your research.
I try my best.
I like a man. You've just read my Twitter from the last week, haven't you? That's the only thing. If you want to go and speak to someone, just read their Twitter and be like, okay, now I'm up to speed with what's going on.
So what's the origins of these books?
Yeah.
This is not your first foray into books either.
So I'm on number 4 now, which is that's a bit weird to say. From my time that I lived in America, it's like we planned it, but we haven't. I did a road trip across America, which involved going to towns that shared names of London Underground stations. So I sort of combined my two passions. And off the back of that was like a self-published thing. I then, in this country, came back home, just got like a trivia book about the London Underground. Off the back of all the stations, myself and Vicky wrote about all the stations, and that sold well. So our publishers went, that was good. Would you like to do another one? And we went, sure. And so they're like companion books. We've done one each. Vicky's is about railways across Britain as a whole. Mine, again, sort of focuses on my first love, which is the Tube and the Underground, and it's 50 Things to See and Do on the Underground in London. Yeah, it's clearly a marketing ploy. You buy one, you have to have the other. If Waterstones place them side by side in the bookshop, there's no way you can buy one without the other.
Yeah.
There's going to be some buy one get the other one half price offers going on at some point, isn't there?
Weekday, weekend versions of it.
Yeah, so 50 Things to See and Do on the Tube and 50 Things to See and Do on British Railways.
And
yes.
from what I've seen of it, I think I've seen a video where it's been flicked through. It kind of matches the design of almost like the iconography of the Tube as well. The Tube.
Yeah, no, a little bit. Yeah, but I should. Sorry, what I wanted to stress before I got to that is that it's definitely based for families. So what we found from all the stations is that there were a lot of you get a lot of parents that would get in touch and go, it was beautiful. I had a beautiful tweet the other day. I think I was complaining about a troll or something. And a mother sent me a picture of her and her family out on the rail network. She went, no, but Geoff, it's brilliant. She said, you've enabled us to make it okay to go out for like a random train journey. And I do get this a lot from families, particularly mothers with young boys, maybe 5, 6, 7, and they go, Mum, can we go on a train? And they go, sure. And they love it. And it's slightly removed a bit of stigma. Or parents have said, I didn't think I'd enjoy a day out with my son on the train so much as I did, and so it's become a bit of a very much a social thing. I think our publisher tapped into that and they went, do a book for families. So we've now specifically done books for families, for parents or guardians to take small ones out on trains and make a day out of it and make it a fun thing. So, but importantly, it can be enjoyed by big kids as well. So it's not just for small ones.
I'll be sure to put a link in the description.
You should.
And so finally, Geoff, what have you learnt?
You should leave this awkward pause in. I think this will make fine podcasty radio. You should always try and find the fun. Which do you know, I was annoyed. There's a comedian, a very funny guy called James Veach, which you may have heard of, and he does a thing where he kind of he replies to spammers online, or he just does fun things. And he has a line where he said in his stand-up show, where he said, you should always try and find the game, right? Which I concur with, because my sort of what I've learned is always try and, like, as long as what you're doing isn't, as long as you're not knowingly inflicting pain or unhappiness or misery upon someone, always just try and find the fun in what you do. So the World Cup thing is a perfect example where I sort of baited TfL, because that is hurting no one, right? Nobody said anything nasty or angry or negative. It was just like, we're gonna have fun. We're gonna make the cable car win because that's just funny. So if you can do something that's just fun, that isn't hurting anyone, then you should totally do that. Find the game. Find where the fun is. Because life can be rubbish and short and ill, and people die sooner than they should, or terrible things happen. So surely to counter the terribleness, you need to find where the fun is in the world. So try and find the fun. That's a 3-word catchphrase. Just put that on a t-shirt. Did you know that 3-word catchphrases work really well as like a buzz phrase? Better than a 2-word or a 4-word catchphrase.
And alliteration. Got alliteration as well.
It's a rule of 3. I'm going to put that on a t-shirt. Find the fun.
Geoff Marshall, thank you very much.
Thank you.